That's really what employers need to do, right? Just exhibit impairment at work.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, look, like every employment lawsuit in the history of the world is factually and evidentiarily driven, right? And so what you're trying to do as an employer is you're trying to create a narrative and an A plus B plus C must equal D type story of impairment, because that, again, going back to what I said earlier, that falls within all of these marijuana legalization laws that say you can't, that you're not going to violate the law if you allow somebody to be impaired. It creates that dissuasive effect. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a narrative that, maybe goes like this. We saw Bill, he was stumbling around in the workplace. We observed that, we documented it, we administered this Gaize test, right? Test is positive, meaning that according to that test, he is impaired at the moment in which we administered the test. And then if you follow up with that with another traditional drug test, then you've got, another positive test. And in that situation, you can say, look, if we saw Bill impaired, if we observed him impaired, we've got two different types of tests, one of which straight up says he's impaired, and the other one creates an inference of impairment because of the levels and because of the substances within the body. Hey, plaintiff's lawyer, be my guest in trying to say that Bill was not impaired. And so you're creating that story that really is pretty airtight, right? And I remind clients all the time, plaintiff's lawyers, they don't want to take cases that are hard, right? Why would you take a hard case, and in this situation, and in our example, trying to prove a negative, when you could take an easy case?
Yeah. Well, that leads to a good question in my mind, Ken. So could you hold up the Gaize device again? So they put that on, right? They kind of put it over the head like that. What are they seeing when they look inside there?
So what they see initially is a calibration, and so we do 5-point calibration. Basically, they move their eyes to 5 different points on the screen, and that basically aligns the eye tracking sensors to their unique facial geometry so we can capture extremely high quality data. And then from there, they go to a series of tests with a simple ball that moves across the screen at sort of a prescribed rate of speed and pattern, stopping at certain points and moving in certain ways. And based on how their eyes are moving during those tests, we can understand if they're showing signs of impairment. And then the last test is called pupillary rebound dilation, and that test basically watches how their eyes react to varying levels of light stimulus. So we start with room light, then we go to full black, and then we go to bright light to simulate a flashlight in the eyes, and watch how their pupils are responding to that, and that gives us additional information.
So let's go back to Tay's point about hard cases and easy cases.
Yeah.
So the device is going to render the result, right? In other words, the supervisor doesn't have to look at it and try to determine whether this is positive or negative, right?
Correct.
So it really takes it takes the objectivity out of it, or I guess it is objective, because they don't have to make a determination. I would think, Tay, from a legal standpoint, if a plaintiff's attorney wants to try to challenge it, they have nobody at the company to blame.
Well, that's right. And I didn't understand 95% of the words Ken just said. So I can't imagine a plaintiff's lawyer trying to poke holes in all that. But you're right. Subjectivity is always the enemy of employment claims, right? And when we just have a yes, no, and then we just have someone saying, okay, this says yes, so we're going to take action because of an objective test, then that does remove all of the subjectivity as to whether or not the person was or was not impaired, and the subjectivity as to the decision making as well.
And this is also why we include the video piece, which is a human interpretable piece of evidence. So we have former drug recognition experts that are on call for us and are ready to go testify on behalf of our customers, and can look in that video and they can say, yeah, here at 30 seconds in the video, we see someone exhibiting horizontal gaze nystagmus, for example. That's a sign of depressant alcohol impairment, and I would have called that impairment and arrested this person during my time as a drug recognition expert. And based on that, I would say this person was impaired.